This week on Americana Outdoors, we're hanging out with our friends from Garmin as they debut the Garmin Force Pro trolling motor. Over the course of this episode, we'll take a look at the new features incorporated into the Force Pro that make it the fiercest trolling motor on the market. We'll also take a look at two Livescope transducers we've installed on Wade's boat, the LVS-34 and the LVS-62. To kick things off, let's dive into the new advancements of the Garmin Force Pro trolling motor.
Garmin's coming out with a brand new trolling motor. We've made really a lot of headway the last 5 years. We introduced the original force trolling motor, and then we came out with the pivot style motor, which is designed for minimal deck space for walleye and coastal boats. That's our force Kraken trolling motor. That motor comes in 63, 75, and 90-inch shaft lengths. We took it a step further and introduced a 48-inch force Kraken for small bay boats and skiffs. And now we've come out with a motor that I've been really excited about for a long time, the Force Pro trolling motor. It's got a reverse thrust, has multi-band GPS, and it also has a lighted indicator and the GT56 UHD built into the bottom of it. So really great side view, a lot of other additional features that we've been able to cover out here today, and I've been really impressed with this motor. So we installed the Force Pro at Wade's house, and it's amazing how seamless it was. You know, it just has 6 bolts that mount it, and we were able to easily get access to it, and it was a really easy job to switch the motor out. And then we also installed 2 Livescope transducers. We have our LVS-62, which is our perspective mode transducer, and then we have our LVS-34, which is our forward transducer. And so it's really, really nice to be able to get that perspective mode, and being able to see 200 feet out and see all that structure has really been great. So we're on Wade's boat right now, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into his Livescope setup. So to me, this is the ideal setup, being able to bring all of the transducers to the console of the boat. Really easy access. You don't have to unmount any of your graphs on the bow. You're able to go right in here. I can see status lights on both of these black boxes. I have access to the transducers and network cables. I have access to take voltage readings. And it's really great to have a battery right here that you can check and charge. And it really frees up some space in the back of the boat, because you can really get a lot of batteries in a boat like this quick. So it's really great to kind of free up some space and make really good use of this day box and not let these GLS 10s overheat. So when you're out with your trolling motor, a lot of times you're doing a lot of back and forth movement. We have a new locking depth collar, which is going to allow you to actually snap it into place, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to really make sure that your trolling motor stays tight, and it's going to prevent any sort of slipping when you're in shallow water and you pull the motor up, or you're trying to do any of situations like that. Another great thing that I'm really happy to see on this trolling motor is the introduction of the GT56 UHD on the Force Pro trolling motor. It's got a little bit longer elements, a higher frequency, gives you a really, really good side view image and also clear view, and it really pairs well with this trolling motor. So we opted to put the transducer on the shaft of the trolling motor. It makes it a little bit easier, so you're not worried about hitting your transducer. It really makes this profile a little bit lower. But if you're in really clear water and you want to move it right down to the barrel of the trolling motor, you take it off the shaft. All you have to do is move that cable down, put it on this right here, and it's a little bit easier, and you can move your perspective a little bit lower in the water.
For our first look at the Garmin Force Pro trolling motor, we'll begin with the reverse thrust feature, which allows anglers to shift into reverse with minimal motor movement and without worrying about disturbing the environment.
All right, we're out here today with the new Garmin Force Pro, and I'm going to show you how you're able to manually shift it into reverse. So right now, we're almost at full thrust. And there's 2 ways that you can reverse the thrust. You can double tap the heading hold button, which is going to take it and it's going to make the color red on your indicator light. That's going to allow you to know what speed you're at and that you're in reverse. You can also double tap the constant thrust button, and that will also shift it into reverse. So I've shown you the 2 ways to shift manually into reverse with the foot pedal. Now I'm going to show you how to shift into reverse with the remote. So you're going to double tap the thrust button, and that's going to give us our red lighting indication, which is going to tell us that we're in reverse. So I can tap the thrust button, and it's going to engage us into reverse, and then I can double tap it again to put us right back into forward mode. So one of the really big applications that we've been able to test out is, when you get in a creek arm and it's really tight, it can be hard to maneuver in those tight spaces. So being able to actually manually shift the trolling motor into reverse and back out is amazing. It's also super important when you're trying to go into docks. Again, you might not have enough room in a dock to actually rotate your boat around, so being able to just manually shift the trolling motor into reverse and back right out is a super, super handy feature of this new trolling motor. Alrighty, so we got the new Force Pro from Garmin, and we're gonna go ahead and shift it into reverse manually and back out of this tight dock. So you double tap the heading hold button and it saves my lap speed, and I'm gonna go ahead and just ease out of the dock. So really any situation from shallow to deep, it's really this reverse thrust is really important. And you know, if you're sight fishing and you get close, you're not having to turn that trolling motor all the way around and blow prop wash all over those fish. You're able to slowly back away and not disturb the reeds or whatever environment they're in. And even if you're offshore fishing a piece of structure, you're able to get back off of it and not drift over it. And it really is applicable for almost any fishing application to be able to shift into reverse and really utilize that to better break down water and be a more effective fisherman.
We'll return to the water in just a moment, but in the meantime, take this opportunity to subscribe to our Americana Outdoors YouTube channel. We're back on the water and the wind is howling. In these moments, having features like anchor lock on your trolling motor are more crucial than ever.
All right, so we're out here today putting the new Garmin Force Pro trolling motor through its paces. It's probably gusting around 25 right now, and that reverse thrust on this motor is crucial. You know, it's reducing our motor activity without affecting our position accuracy, which is super important because the motor needs to make sure that it's always in the right position no matter what conditions we're in, but it's also not going to utilize the motor unless it needs to. It's going to make the motor quieter as well. And so right now, I'm going to go ahead and put it into anchor lock. And you'll notice the head didn't have to turn around and back us up. It's keeping us straight. And you're gonna see this bar right here is gonna fluctuate usually between 1 and 5 in these conditions. And all that is it's regulating how much it needs to move to really keep us right on that spot. And this head right here has multi-band GPS in it, so it's right on the shaft, and it makes it way, way, way more accurate, and it's really crucial on windy days like today. And you'll notice if at any point it gets a little bit too far forward, this will actually reverse and go into red, but we have enough wind today that more than likely it's not gonna have to reverse. We'll go to get it a little bit of a calmer pocket where that's gonna be utilized a little bit more.
All right, it's time to witness anchor lock in action as Wade and Levi attempt to fish along a rocky dam against these unrelenting winds.
Back-to-back casts with this fish, and you know, just really going along this dam and just working it right along the rocks, and they're coming out with this wind and just smoking it.
Well, and we can fish in this wind because, I mean, you know, trolling motors are an awesome tool, but there are a lot of advancements that have come about in trolling motors that allow us to kind of sit right here and keep ourselves in play, keep ourselves in, you know, the strike zone where these fish are. The wind's blowing across this point. It's I'm assuming got bait fish. You can see it on Livescope, but the ability to keep your boat positioned is key.
Yeah, and it's amazing, you know, how close we can get with these rocks and still be able to move the boat around with precision and, you know, be able to really keep us right where we need to be for both of us to be able to cast down this bank. Because without being able to have really good, precise boat control, you would not be able to fish two guys like this.
Well, and we can go in reverse now, too.
Yeah.
That's a pretty unique aspect, you know, so when you know, people are wanting to keep their boat anchored in one spot over and over. When you hit that now, the advancements inside the Pro Series on this trolling motor have got, I mean, everything communicates better to keep you in one spot. You know, the engineers can explain that much better than I can, but all I know is it keeps me locked on the right spot far better now than previous models.
Absolutely, and that, you know, the multi-band GPS that's in the head with that extra sensor and really being able to put the GPS right on the shaft of the trolling motor just helps it really understand where it needs to be. It's amazing.
Well, and it's not spinning as much as it used to fight. There's been some advancements there in the new Pro Series on the Force, and that makes a difference.
So another great additional thing that we added to this trolling motor is the built-in GT56 UHD transducer. It allows you to really get a clear picture of side view. It's got a little bit longer elements than the GT54 that's in the original Force trolling motor, and it gives you a good picture whether you're looking for brush piles or you're looking for trees. Having that on the trolling motor itself really comes in handy, and you know, you're not looking on the back of the boat on the transom. You're getting a more real-time image of that sonar, which is super important when you're trying to catch on brush piles or any other structure.
Got him? Right on the rocks, wasn't he?
Right on the rocks. That's a good fish right there.
Right on the rock. Good one. Coming up.
Good fish.
Let me grab that one. No.
Nice.
There you go.
This fish was right up on the rocks. I mean, was in right up on the bank. Really beautiful 4-pounder here. Really healthy fish. You know, look at all his fins and how thick he is. Really, really beautiful Texas bass.
That's a good one right there. That's what you're looking for.
Put him right back in there. Go eat some more.
We'll return to the water in just a moment, but in the meantime, take this opportunity to subscribe to our Americana Outdoors YouTube channel.
When you are looking at equipment to enhance your opportunities, Garmin is legendary. In this case, the new Garmin Force Pro trolling motor has some tremendous upgrades over the original Force. And the original Force was a fantastic motor. I mean, I've been running mine for several years with no problem. The new one, though, they've taken the input from pros and guides and engineers, and they just, like every product I've ever been around, and they just make them better.
When we originally introduced the Force, it always has had brushless motors, but it's super important to have a brushless motor, especially when you have Livescopes or other electronics. And the GT56 and my Livescope transducers are almost touching that motor, and it's important for it to be brushless so you don't have any noise in the water, and it also gives you a lot of power. It's amazing, you know, ripping through weeds, how fast we can get a boat moving just because of that brushless motor.
The ability to cut through vegetation with this thing and clear it, amazing. I mean, when you look at cattails or eelgrass, that's some of the nastiest stuff you're gonna find. When you can get in there and reverse and move things around and it's clearing that motor as easy as it is, that's incredibly well built and gonna be a big addition for guys that are up shallow. So all of those advancements come through using a product. And that's the cool thing about Garmin is the amount of pros, the amount of staff, the amount of quality engineers that are dedicated to products are just second to none.
Speaking of products that are second to none, let's take this time to turn our attention to the newly installed LVS-34 and the LVS-62 transducers.
So on this boat, we put an LVS-62 and we've been able to really play with it and see what its potential is in perspective mode. It really cuts that learning curve when you're out there and you're trying to break down a lake you've never been to and see structure. You can see trees and other bits of structure at 100, 200 feet. You're also able to really pick up bass beds or any other beds that you might be looking at. Just because you can't physically see them with the naked eye, a lot of times you can still pick them up on perspective. So one of the great things about these Garmin units and Livescope is just the ease of use, changing from perspective to forward mode. Some people might want to have one transducer and just do forward and then manually rotate it, but it's really nice to add in that second transducer because I can see perspective mode and I can see in forward, and it really gives you a full picture of what's going on under the water. So you can go into the menu and I can change this bottom echo map into forward mode. And just as I did with this unit, I can go up to the front and I can change this one to forward mode as well. And so you can alternate which one you want to have in forward mode and which one you want to have in perspective. And you know, it's just easy to be able to switch it and kind of figure it out with your own personal preference, what you want to run for your setup. So right now I'm going to show you guys the difference in beam icons. So on the bottom echo map, which is our 34, you can see the yellow beam icon. It's going to be a narrower cone because we're looking in forward mode. And then on the top echo map, it's also yellow and it's in perspective mode, which is more of a top view of what's out on the water. And with this beam icon, I can see where these two arrays intersect. And so when I see my bait in forward mode, it gives me a really good indication of where it'll be in perspective. So I can look out and see if there's fish following my bait. And the XR is really, really great to see docks or trees or structure at 100 or 200 feet. And it allows you to break down the lake a lot quicker, and it really cuts down your learning curve when it comes to finding what structure and really patterning these fish. All right, we're right here at the power plant intake, and you can see there's a rock break wall right here, and right a little bit farther down there's some reeds. And so that bottom composition is going to change from really hard rock bottom to more of a soft composition. And you can see right here on Livescope, you can see that really good return where it's really hard is going to give you a brighter image. And then it transitions over to that softer, more of that silty mud. And you can see there's several tilapia beds. You can kind of see the different shadows. And we have our range set to 110 feet because with that XR, you can see a little bit further. You can see all the beds that are in this area right here. And, you know, really see that bottom composition really change. There's a huge transitional line. So you can throw a bait right over the top of that rock, and those fish a lot of times will be waiting on the edge, ready to ambush your bait.
We'll return to the water in just a moment, but in the meantime, take this opportunity to subscribe to our Americana Outdoors YouTube channel.
So one of the really unique opportunities that my position has at Garmin is really on the water testing, and being able to come out here for a couple days, take a new product, really put it through its paces is just super crucial to be able to understand your products. And it's one thing to sit in a room and talk about the product and look at technical specs, but actually going out there and getting real world applications from a pro like Wade, who's been fishing for a long time, is really resourceful for me and is really going to help me have more success, not only with my job at Garmin, but also go home and fish some of the power plant lakes that we have in the Midwest.
There we go. I listened to my own medicine right there, didn't I? Well, I mean, I'm looking at the, the forward. You can see all those fish out there in 7-8 foot of water, and yeah, we've been catching them early on that, on the rocks. But I mean, I counted him down a little deeper, and whack! God, these fish are so fat on this lake. When you look at electronics, it's telling you clues all the time. It's telling you if something's there or not. And you look at your mapping, it's telling you the depth and all the color shading that I like to do when I set it up. When I'm looking at side, you see all kinds of things that are happening, and following the bait is key. I mean, when dinner time comes, you don't go to the bathroom because the food's in the kitchen. Well, when you see the bait down at 7-8 feet, you try to get a bait down to that depth. I mean, it's kind of common sense, but as fishermen, sometimes we don't listen. We get hung up doing the same thing, and I'm not saying I can repeat that everywhere, but that was obvious. I see bait, I slowed down, caught one. The clues are there. The tools to give us the clues are right at our fingertips. Another dandy. Another dandy.
Another good one going back in.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have a rock formation here, and you can see there's a really nice bass right there cruising. It actually might even be a carp, and there's another fish there, and they're kind of just cruising over this rock, and you can use perspective to really get an idea of where that rock is really starting and ending. So you can see this beam icon is showing us where our LVS 34 is facing, and you can see all those rocks on forward mode right there. And this gives you an aerial view of what you're looking at when you're trying to figure out where you're trying to make these casts. And we're throwing swim baits and we're running them just right over the top of these rocks.
Captured one. Look how dark that fish is.
Nice.
Dark. These fish are pretty over here. I mean, that's an overused term because all fish are pretty, but they just have that real classic green look. Got him? Same
double
spot
up.
Almost. We weren't. Why do you always catch a bigger one than mine? I gotta throw him back in here. I don't know, I might outweigh you. Let's see. My arms are gonna be longer on this one, Levi. Ah, mine's bigger. If you don't have fun fishing, something's wrong.
So we had an amazing trip here in Texas. I can't say enough about the Garmin Force Pro and how crucial it was for our success on this trip. Can't thank Wade enough for having me down here and being able to take that Livescope transducer, and a lot of the pros are running that, and being able to see where the applications are and break down a fishery that you've never been on before and understand how bass behave and their different patterns has been just an amazing trip. And again, I can't thank Wade enough for having me down in Texas.
Hey, thank you for watching, and join us again next week on a new episode of Americana Outdoors. Americana Outdoors is a Careco TV production.